And it looks like you two and you are kind of in the distance on here. Are you okay with that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Are you okay?
Sure.
Okay. So we're live. Welcome everyone at home, and welcome everyone here.
Thank you.
So because we have so many folks that are new, I'm going to ask the experienced meditators to bear with me. Sorry.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Are you okay?
Sure.
Okay. It's so we're live. Welcome everyone at home, and welcome everyone here. For some reason, it's playing while I'm. So. I apologize. Okay. So hopefully it's not going to do that again. Okay, we're still live and we're still broadcasting. Thank you. Technical difficulties. Okay, so lots of times people come to learn about meditation with some misconceptions about what it really is. And so part of what I like to do is to help dispel the myths about meditation, but then also to explain a little bit about what it is really and why we want to do it. And then hopefully we're going to get a taste of it. I'll do a guided 20-minute meditation, and we'll have a little bit of experience with relaxing the body during that meditation, and then also with focusing on the breath, and then introducing a question that's in that wonderful book that you're holding right there. If you want to hold it up and show everybody, True Meditation by Adyashanti. He's an American non-dual spiritual teacher who lives in California in the Bay Area. He had traditional like Zen training, but now it's completely non-denominational spirituality, and that's the lens that I use in here, although I might reference Christianity or other religions. This is all inclusive, nothing is left out, there's connections everywhere, but I'm not teaching Buddhism, I'm not teaching any particular religion. So everybody can know that before we get started. So people often think that meditation is about stopping the mind. And wouldn't that be great if we could do that? If we could just make it stop? There was some thoughtful guy back in the 70s who came up with this therapy called thought-stopping therapy, which has since been discredited. And I think some people still try to employ some of those techniques, but it doesn't really work. We do not know where thought comes from. We don't know how to stop it. And we don't know why we think about lots of the things that we do. The thing that we do know, and there's lots of writing and experience and practice and my own experience that shows me that what's actually necessary to obtain peace isn't to make the mind stop. You can obtain peace through a shift in the relationship with mind. So until we've looked, we might think that our mind tells us the truth about everything and that we have to listen to everything that it says and that we're powerless. We have to be subject to this barrage of ridiculousness enmeshed with things that make sense and can't, we've got to listen to it and pay attention and try to figure out what makes sense and what doesn't. Some people refer to that voice in the head as the commentator. Think about it like the noisy TV announcer who's constantly commenting on every single thing that happens, right? Oh, I'm bored. It's hot. This is crazy. This is stupid. I don't like this. I'm uncomfortable. Or, oh, I like that, and I want more of that, and oh, she's nice, and he's okay, and all those things that run through our mind constantly all day long. That's what we want to learn how to have a different relationship with, instead of being on the roller coaster and feeling like we have to listen to all of that all the time. There's a different way to relate to all that stuff. Mind is useful, don't get me wrong. There's a toolbox element to mind. It's very powerful. We can use it to build bridges and solve lots of complex problems and relate to each other. I mean, we want people to have good minds to do those complex jobs. But research has demonstrated that somewhere between 80 and 90% of our thoughts are useless and repetitive. If you think about it, how much of the thought that you have seems to be this repetitive, I've thought that before kind of thing. Me too. That's just how it is. That's what it means to be a human being. Okay. So, fine, we're going to shift the relationship with thought. But to do that requires something different than we've ever done before. We're used to paying attention to thoughts or sometimes feelings. Sometimes people are driven by what they feel, and then the thought follows. But usually either thoughts or feelings drive most of what human beings do all the time. And if we're not following thought or feeling as a guide to tell us what to do, then what is there? Right? Isn't that where the mind goes? Well, then how do I know what to do? What am I going to listen to instead? So perhaps you've heard about or experienced that there's a sort of inner wise self, and we have all different kinds of ways of referring to this part of ourselves. Our authentic self, our true self. Some people refer to it as their soul or their spirit. Sometimes we call it intuition, or we'll refer to it as spirit guides or the Holy Spirit or God talking to us. There are all different kinds of ways that we can reference or know this voice that comes from the wise place. It doesn't really follow impulse. It doesn't tell us to do the thing that's easiest all the time. It's more concerned with what's right. So that's the thing that we can start to get more in touch with and more aligned with, and be not so right up close to the voices in the mind that are constantly telling us what we need to do, because those voices come from a different place. And sometimes in non-dual spirituality, they refer to that place that the mind is usually operating from as ego. So ego is just a way of, it's not the Freud ego that we're talking about here. It's a different kind of ego. Ego is best described, I think, as our inner 4-year-old. Okay, so this is an energetic movement that has two basic attitudes or two basic energies. It's I want and grasp for, or I don't want. So those are the two energies. And if ego is operating, you can check in and feel into your body what that feels like. And you can almost feel like a pull, like you're internally reaching for the thing that you want. Or if it's something you really don't want, the test coming up, or you got to meet somebody you don't want to, you can feel the internal, like, kind of want to turn away from it. But until we investigate, we might not be familiar with that. We might just be used to automatically doing whatever that voice says, trying to figure out how we can go after the thing we want or get away from the things that we don't like or that are unpleasant. And living in that way where we automatically follow the voices in our head is the thing that brings us here. Because we can't be happy when we live from that place. It's not a very comfortable place to live. The movement that says I want grasps, and we think that it will make us happy. But if we look, what we'll actually notice is that thing, that movement that says I want and grasps, has to keep grasping over and over and over, because it never stays satisfied for very long. It always wants more. And we can verify that always for ourselves, right? So a little bit of ice cream is good and more is better. You know, the clothes that we buy, or the new things, the new shiny toys or things, they kind of wear off pretty quickly, and then suddenly we're looking for the next new thing, the next new shiny thing, right? And it's endless. We can be on that treadmill searching forever, and we bought into the idea that I'll be happy when. So the inner 4-year-old lets you know, okay, if you give me that, then I'll calm down, I'll be happy. But it never lasts for very long. That's the trick. So we're starting to look internally, looking inside to see what is really going on here. Because if this is not cutting it, we'd like to stop it as soon as possible so that we can be happy, so that we can be free of this slavery to our minds. So meditation is often referred to as a practice. It's not something necessarily that you do and achieve instant peace or relief. Although I have to say that at the end of most of my meditation sessions, I do feel calm. I do feel better. I do feel more at peace. But sometimes when we meditate, we will get done, and it'll feel like we've run a race in our minds, and we won't feel very happy or satisfied or comfortable with our meditation session and feel like we failed, or that it wasn't any good, or it didn't work. And that's not true, because no matter what it's like when we sit, what we're getting to experience is how everything changes, constantly changes. It never stays the same. And that's really good news, because if everything changes, then the discomfort or unhappiness or any kind of place that the 4-year-old tells us we have to get out of right now isn't really going to stay that way forever. If we wait a little bit, like they say about living in Columbus, if you don't like the weather, wait 10 minutes. We can treat our minds that way too. Kind of treat our minds and our thoughts and how we're feeling like the weather. If we're not liking it, we can wait a little bit. It's just that we're not usually accustomed to waiting. We're usually going right for immediate distraction, immediate, how do I get more comfortable right now? And we have all different kinds of ways to do that. We use drugs and food and alcohol and shopping and even healthy things. I know people who use running or exercise or things that seem really healthy to distract themselves and get away from themselves. So meditation practice will help. It'll help alleviate that need to get away from your own experience in any moment in time. You, over time, will be able to relax into your own experience. That's real freedom. When you don't have to run from any moment that you're experiencing, no matter how icky it feels, that's freedom. You're not forced to shop or eat or drink or distract. That's freedom. So I'm wondering if anybody has any questions at this point before I go further. Okay. Is any of this familiar? Yeah? Okay. So I had a little section this is another book by the guy who wrote that book. This one is called Falling into Grace. And I just had a little section that I was going to read. And then, let's see, I think I'll ask for questions, and then we're going to get down to brass tacks about what to do during our sitting practice today. And then you guys can ask questions about that, because I think that's what you're all really interested in, is how to meditate. So I want to give everyone a good grounding in that today. And whether you come back or not, I want everyone to know that I'm happy to be a resource. If you have questions about practice, or if I can point you at any sort of resources that can help you find a practice, how we meditate today is not how you have to meditate in your own time when you go home. Any way that works for you is what I encourage people to do. Some people prefer to sit with music. Over time, what I discovered is I didn't want any distraction. I didn't want anybody talking at me or any noise. I just wanted to be able to sit in silence. But any way that you can get started, anything that works for you is fantastic. You don't have to sit cross-legged on the floor. Lying down is dangerous. We all know why. But if you have a condition that prevents you from being able to sit to meditate, then by all means, lie down, use bed, couch, yoga mat, whatever you need to use in order to be able to meditate and get the practice. I've heard statistics quoted now that say as little as 3 minutes of focused practice per day can produce results. 3 minutes is not very long, you know? And if you can't do 3 minutes all in one shot, do 1 minute 3 times a day. So I'm all for making it as simple as possible, as easy as possible to get started. Meditation is pretty simple, but it's not easy at first. Okay? So I'm just going to read a little bit. I like to read from some of these books that really talk about the thing that we're all here about and here for, because I think sometimes they call all the talk about meditation and mindfulness, they call it pointers, because the thing that we're talking about, getting in touch with who we really are, our true identity as spirit, it's not something definable. So everything that we do to try to talk about it is actually just a pointer. We're all pointing at it. All the teachers are pointing at it from different directions. And the more different directions we can point at it from, that I can point at it from for you, the more likely it is that you'll be able to have some realization of your own and some success of your own in discovering your relationship with thought and emotion and discovering your true identity outside of thought and emotion. So this chapter is called Intimacy and Availability. Not knowing is something that is undervalued in our culture. Most of us are conditioned to believe that not knowing isn't a very worthy trait. When you take a test at school, for example, and you don't know the answer, you feel anxious, like you've done something wrong, and you feel stress as you try to remember and you try to know. But in the context of spiritual inquiry, we actually let go of trying to know. We let go of conceptual certainty. Right now, you can allow yourself to experience a very simple sense of not knowing what or who you are, not knowing what this moment is, not knowing anything. If you give yourself this gift of not knowing and you follow it, a vast spaciousness and a mysterious openness dawns within you. Relaxing into not knowing is almost like surrendering into a big, comfortable chair. You just fall into a field of possibility. When you first encounter this field of not knowing, you may feel vulnerable. This field of uncertainty may make you feel naked, as though you are unable to protect yourself. You can inquire directly into this. What is the you that feels vulnerable? What is it really? Your mind will tell you that this you who feels vulnerable is actually something real, something that actually exists. But if you look at it, what you'll begin to see is that it's just a thought. I'm vulnerable. It's a thought based on memory. Every one of us, through the process of growing up, has had moments when we felt very open and exposed, where someone has come in and taken advantage of us, lashed out against us, or told us we were wrong. We learned that being wide open may not be the best idea. Most adults are desensitized to the openness and the innocence of a child. When as children our natural vulnerability is violated, an imprint is left, a memory of hurt, which results in recoiling. These kinds of memories often remain with us, causing us to conclude, if I allow myself to be too open, too vulnerable, I'm likely to get hurt. I really shouldn't do this. However, vulnerability is always there, whether we're consciously opening to it or not. It's not like we're more protected when we armor ourselves with self-image and other ideas about who and what we are. In reality, the effort of armoring ourselves really doesn't work. When we armor ourselves, when we close from natural openness and vulnerability, what is it that we're protecting? Are we protecting something that's actually there, or are we merely protecting an idea of ourselves held in memory? If the feeling of openness and vulnerability triggers a memory in the present moment, just allow that memory, along with all its associated emotions, to arise. But see it and feel it for what it is, a memory re-emerging in current time, in the space of right now. If you know it's just a memory that got triggered from this space of openness, then you realize it's not something that's happening now. Rather, it's the arising of the past. Now it's not so intimidating. It's not so threatening. It's okay if old memories arise. They're not problems in and of themselves. So what he's talking about in that little section is about that movement of the 4-year-old, but it's very logical until we start to look. It's very understandable and expectable as a response, as a human response. We all are conditioned. Has anybody taken like a beginning psychology class and you learn about conditioning and they teach you about the dogs and they ring the bell and the dogs drool, and right? So we learn lots of stuff. We learn, oh, when I do this, I get praise, or when I do that, I get yelled at, or people don't like it when I do this, or they don't like it when I do that. And we shape our behavior based on our experiences. And we all have a slightly different set of experiences that shape our behavior. And we have to look. So there's no rule book, there's no guidebook to tell us what all of that stuff is. There's some general stuff. You know, we like the pat on the head, and we know where that comes from, you know, school and learning how to do things growing up. But lots of other conditioning, the stuff that causes us to recoil or to armor ourselves or to be overly concerned with self-image, all of those kinds of things come from conditioning. And the conditioning is based on a certain view of the world. We're taught at a very young age that there's a me, an I, right? And then all of our stuff is referred to as mine. But we never really examine that relationship. We're taught those concepts, but we never question what is this thing called me or I, and how do we know what's mine? So if we think about it, I could say this is my book, but there's nothing that actually connects me to this book except a shared agreement in this room that you all won't steal my book because I've said it belongs to me, or you know it belongs to me. But it's really just a concept, the idea that this book belongs to me. That's the only thing connecting this book to me as a concept. Likewise, the concept I and me, we take as there's this thing. The I or the me is this solid thing that someone can hurt. So when our feelings get hurt, we kind of respond in a way that is like something got damaged, something actually physically got broken or could be broken. but we don't examine, we don't really go in and look because we're conditioned to defend our honor, our, whatever it is that our self-image, whatever it is that we think has been damaged when somebody says something to us or looks at us funny. But if we go in and look and try to find the I or the me, right? Have you done that? Try to find yourself? I remember doing that. Drove myself crazy. Go in there and look around, and we use that phrase all the time, right? I'm going to find myself. Anytime to find myself. But if we go in there and look, we don't really find anything. We don't find a me. We find thoughts and feelings. We can find, oh, there's a body attached to this thing that I know as me. The thing that I think I am wakes up in this body all the time, and people know it by a certain name, right? But if we look, what we really find is there's consciousness. Scientists can't figure out what that is, what it is that leaves the body and suddenly it's not animated anymore. It's the thing that's looking out of your eyes at me right now and looking out of my eyes at you, but it's totally undefinable. We have no idea what it is. It's a mystery. When we look, there's someone who coined a very cool phrase. When we look, what we find is that it's actually as though this human being is like an orchestra without a conductor. We can't find the little driver inside. We can't find the boss. If we really look and do Socratic, logical, process of elimination. Well, I can't be thoughts because something knows there's thought. I can't be emotion because something knows there's emotion. I can't be the body because something is aware of the body. So what am I? It's a mystery. Right? It's a mystery. But being a mystery is really uncomfortable for a lot of people. And so they keep running around shopping, chasing whatever the 4-year-old wants, because that is, for them, that's easier than dealing with the mystery and getting comfortable with the mystery. So part of what you'll do in your meditation practice is start to get to know the mystery that is you. Right? The mystery shows up a little bit differently in every person, right? Different thoughts and beliefs and feelings and personality. Right? So you're uniquely you, but you're still a mystery. And what happens if we start to walk around with this new understanding that everybody is a mystery walking around? Everyone is pure consciousness walking around in a body that we associate with a name and a particular appearance, right? So when we meditate, we start to become more intimate with who and what we really are. We start to become more familiar with how this mystery appears. So how does it appear? It thinks this thought over and over, or it thinks it is this, or it needs that, or it has to do this, or it has to do that. And we create this distance between all that stuff and who we really are, and we kind of sit there and watch it. And we notice it. And we do it in a very particular way. We do it in a non-judgmental, hopefully curious, and playful way. So we're not often used to relating to our own experience in this way. So just relating, forget sitting or being quiet, just starting to relate to our experience in that way can be a new thing altogether. Some people tell me that alone changes their lives. To start to relate to their own experience in a way that is not hostile, that's not harsh or judging or sarcastic. Like, oh, there you go again. All the things that we do or say to ourselves in our own heads about how we are. When we stop doing that stuff and being curious, or even having a sense of humor about, oh, there it goes again. You know, I come home from work and I'm stressed and ice cream is the first thought, or whatever the thing is that this humanness seems to be doing to try to cope, or the ways that it struggles, or the things that it thinks are true, even though we might know, the wiser part of us might know that it's not really true. But we can see how there's this movement, there's this energetic movement that tells us we have to do better, or we have to be different. All that is self-violence. When we can't be at home with who we are, we're sort of practicing a radical acceptance where we know that we're fine exactly as we are, and at the same time, we're always trying to do a little bit better. We know we could do a little bit better. So that would be like the definition of non-dual, if you're wondering what non-dual spirituality is. This ability to hold these two thoughts at the same time, to hold these things that seem to be in opposition, because we tend to be thinking either or all the time. It has to be one or the other. Some of that stuff we pick up in school, that process of elimination, and it's got to be, if it's this, it can't be that. But we're talking about something altogether different here. We're talking about looking at our experience in a nonviolent way, where we notice that those two things are actually true. We are actually fine just as we are, and we could do a little bit better. It doesn't have to be all one or the other. We don't have to be useless, worthless, terrible in order to motivate ourselves to be better, to do better. And sometimes people don't believe me when I tell them that, but you can investigate. All the research, all the behavioral research that's out there says that when we tell people how good they're doing, they want to do better. When we tell people how bad they're doing, it's not very motivating. It doesn't give them the energy to want to work at really being better or changing whatever it is that's wrong. So we're attending to what's right, but we're not ignoring what's not right. We're still working at being better. So this is the attitude when we sit today that we're going to have. It's called self-compassion. So we're doing this thing called meditation that involves these three things. Essentially, we're paying attention on purpose to the present moment. So it's not an accident. We're not daydreaming and just fall into it. We're doing it on purpose. We have an intention. And we're paying attention. We're paying attention in a particular way. We're not hanging on really tight and watching ourselves this close. And we're not like all dreamy and falling asleep and not really connected to what's happening. We're kind of in the middle. So if you imagine those being the two extremes, we're going to pay attention in a way that's right in the middle. We're going to hang on kind of loosely. So relaxed alertness, that's what we're after. And don't be alarmed if you get sleepy, because lots of times we've never relaxed enough for this length of time other than to go to sleep. Most of the time, if we're this relaxed, like we will get in meditation, it's right before we're dropping off to sleep. So the body is conditioned that when we get this relaxed, that's what we do. We sleep. It's one of the challenges in meditation. Another one is called monkey mind, where the mind is just going all over the place and we're distracted and feeling hopeless because it won't stop. So if that's your experience today, please don't fret, please don't worry. What you want to do is stay in that middle place of you're not hanging on too tightly, but with that curious, non-judgmental attitude, be like, oh, wow, look at that. Look how, that's what the mind wants to do today. It's really crazy today. And you're just watching it. You're just noticing. As long as you're present and you stay there and you're watching, you're meditating. As soon as you go into, oh, that's so terrible and I can't believe it and it's not going to stop and why is it doing this and I must not be doing it right, and all that negative, that spiral, that self-judgment that comes in, then the mind has won, right? It's taken you away from what you're intending to do here this evening. So does that give you a feel for the stance, the mental stance that you're going to have as we try to meditate tonight? Does anybody have any questions about what they're supposed to do? Okay. Any questions about what I've read or anything else? Okay. Yes.
I do have a question.
Okay.
Some of the forms of meditation that I've heard of and read about talk about focusing on a single word like Om,
Yes.
doing Oms, and in the case of transcendental meditation, I had a lot of friends who did that, and they had a word that was their special word. Is this, well, where does that come from? That kind of singularity.
So these are all different ways of doing concentration practice or focused practice. So it's kind of meditation in terms of building that focus is kind of like building a muscle, being able to pay attention for long periods of time to a chosen target or object of focus. That's a practice, that's a skill some people want to build up. We're going to do a little bit of that tonight, but we're also going to do something that's a little bit even beyond it, because focus practice is great, but it can also become an exercise in control, which is what we're trying to get away from, right? That's what the 4-year-old's trying to do. It's trying to grasp and push away. That's all about control. So what Adya describes in that book is how those kinds of meditation practice can become just more trying to control, more ego kind of stuff. But it's not useless. It's not unhelpful. And if concentration practice or focus practice is what you like to do or what you're most comfortable with, there are all kinds of ways to do it. So what we call an object of focus for meditation can be anything. It can be a mantra like Om. There's phrases like Om Mani Padme Hum. There's candle flame that people use sometimes. Some people will use other sounds like music or nature sounds. You could use any object in this room if you wanted to as your focus for your meditation practice tonight. And all it involves is doing the same thing that we'll do during the guided practice, which is you concentrate on the object, and when your mind wanders, as soon as you notice the mind has wandered, you go, oh, mind has wandered, and then you come back. You come back non-judgmentally in a playful, self-compassionate way. You're not barking at yourself or judging yourself or anything like that. You just come back to the object of focus. And then mind wanders again. As soon as you notice, you go, oh, thinking, or oh, whatever the thing in your experience has occurred, and then you come back to the object of focus. Okay? Does that answer your question? Okay. There are tons of different guided meditations. People use meditation for all kinds of things. You mentioned transcendental meditation, and sometimes people use meditation to try to have really out-of-this-world transcendent experiences. And they say in meditation, if you sit and stare at a wall long enough, something is bound to happen. Lots of fantastic experiences can arise. when you sit and stare. But my goal really is to help people gain the peace of mind and the freedom that they're after through meditation. And if you can only get that during meditation, then you're not free. You haven't really achieved that. You're tied to the transcendental meditation or whatever the practice is to achieve that feeling. And they even say sometimes, for people that have really fantastic, feels like their body, they have no body and their form is huge and fills up the whole room, or lots of different, everybody's got stories about these amazing meditation experiences they have that, if you're really unlucky, you'll have an experience like that, and then you'll chase that for the rest of your life instead of knowing what it's like to achieve freedom. You'll be after that feeling, mistaking it for freedom. So my goal really is to help everyone who comes here to find some way that they can practice on their own, whether they come here again or not, whether they use the meditation that we use this evening or not, it doesn't matter. I want to help you all find some way to practice that works for you. There's even ways to practice mindfulness with eyes wide open, not sitting on the cushion or hanging out in a super quiet space. You can do it in your car by paying attention to every single aspect of the experience of driving your car. The sensation of your hands on the steering wheel, the seat beneath you, your feet on the pedals, the traffic patterns, the signs, being completely immersed in just that experience, rather than what we usually do while we're driving, which is like 3 things at one time, what we're going to do when we get there, what we left behind, trying to wrap that up, and then driving kind of mindlessly on autopilot. So we can do dishes, the most ordinary of tasks, can be transformed into a mindfulness practice if you can't meditate or you feel like an aversion to meditation practice. Okay? And always feel free to contact me about more ways to make that happen for yourself. So now we're going to, unless there are more questions.
I'm actually.
Okay. Okay. You had a question?
Yes.
Okay.
When is the best time for meditation? In the morning, evening?
I don't know if it's true for everybody, but I've heard most experienced meditators say morning is best, and I'm not a morning person at all, and I'm gravitating to morning because it just feels like it sets my day up. Then it doesn't get lost. It keeps me connected to what's important, and I fit it in. I've got time. I've got a space. So really, whatever space you have for that, I recommend, especially for people with, if you've got other people that you live with, or there's people in and out of the house, just pick the time when people aren't around, because otherwise you're like putting a sign on the door and do not disturb, and they want to know when you're going to be done, or knocking on the door. So it can be hard to meditate when you hear people walking around or the kids, running around and stuff. So really, whatever works best for you. I've never heard a study about a time that is the best.
And would it be the same time for that person each day? Would it become a ritual?
There's a benefit to using the same time each day, because just like we become conditioned around negative things, we can become conditioned around positive things. So if we've got a special place where we meditate and a certain time of day every day, then when we sit down, it can become easier for the body. It just knows, just like they say, study in the same place every day, right? That your mind, it knows how to settle down, knows what to do when you sit down. Same thing can happen with meditation if you've got a specific time and place. The body craves routine. We're creatures of habit. Humans thrive on routine. So that can be very helpful. You had a question?
Oh yeah, you spoke about like ego and how it's in a sense an inner 5-year-old.
Uh-huh.
And I was wondering, and I've read about like and heard about achieving ego death through meditation, and would that, in a sense, since your consciousness is undefinable, wouldn't ego death in a sense be a death of part of your consciousness, although it may not be a bad part? I mean, it may not be a good part of your consciousness. Or how would you define ego death? Would be a better way to
Okay.
word it.
So the way you've defined ego death is an ego's eye view of ego death. Okay? It's hard to understand what ego death means from this, from the place of consciousness where ego is still operating really heavily. Ego death does not mean that you have no ego anymore. That's impossible. But what it means is that that movement, that energetic movement that is always grasping or pushing away, it kind of falls away. It's like it would arise, the I want would arise, and you would just sit there and watch it go, oh, you'd feel the little energetic movement or the pull toward the thing, and chuckle maybe, and then it would fall flat again. You wouldn't be able to follow it. When you can't follow it anymore, where it's telling you to go, you don't believe it in anymore, that's ego death. When you don't believe in what it says anymore. Does that make sense? Okay. So achieving ego death through meditation is about watching the movement of ego so many times, watching it do its thing over and over, and then after a while you just don't believe in it anymore. Like, oh, it's just the same old thing over and over and over. And there are other ways to achieve it.
So would you say it's almost a cynicism against ego? Or, I know that's, I guess, another coming from the ego
Yes.
technically.
Yeah.
But.
Yeah. So it's not calling ego bad. It's not a adversarial relationship with ego. It's simply not believing in it anymore. So no, there's no hatred. There's no negative emotion toward it. And if anything, it's more friendly. It's more like, oh, how cute, There's another way to achieve ego death or to move toward it called, the method is called direct inquiry. And that's like a dialogue, like, have you heard of Socratic dialogue? Okay, so that they use that in law school to talk about, that's a particular method of discussing cases. And so there's a way you can engage in a dialogue. There are people who provide this service, usually for free, and I do it for free also for people who are interested. It can be done in person or via email, where I would ask questions or they would ask questions, and then your homework is to go and do the best job, your most honest answers to those questions, and the pointer keeps telling you where to look, and you keep looking until you reach that point where you achieve a shift in consciousness, a shift in understanding of what's going on. Instead of interpreting everything through the ego lens, you would be able to interpret it from your true self. Okay?
I heard a cool, playful kind of way of describing the ego death when I was at this retreat with Joan Halifax Roshi, who was like a Zen teacher, meditation teacher. And somebody was asking her, I think, how do you meditate, or what do you do when you meditate, or something? And her line was, cross your legs and hope to die. And it, made everybody laugh. But she talked about letting, that part of the ego that's not serving you. Let those things kind of die off. Let that ego part die off.
Yeah. There's a section in here I was just reading earlier where he talks about his experience being in his 20s and meditating for 4 years, thousands of hours. And so he's done that for 4 years. He had built a little hut in the back of his parents' yard and was meditating and meditating and meditating. And finally, after 4 years, he was like, oh, I can't do this. I can't. It's not going where I want it to go. I'm never going to get there. I'm not. And that was the point where he finally surrendered, because the part of him that was trying to achieve ego death was ego. So ego can't kill itself. So finally, he achieved what he was after through finally realizing he couldn't achieve it the way that he was after it. It was like through giving up. That's kind of what grace is. They talk about that in Christianity, that grace is what happens when you say, I can't do it. And then grace magically appears. So we're gonna do it. Okay. There's a restroom out that end and that end, if anybody needs to. And please turn off your cell phones if you don't mind. And if anybody wants to turn down lights, you're free to do that. You can, if you want. I wonder, would you mind, is one of those cups empty? Would you mind pouring me a little bit? Oh, are they both used?
No, they're both.
Oh, okay. Would you mind pouring me a little bit? Thanks. Okay. So, can I get another chair for one of you? Are you going to be comfortable that way?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So, first off, the most important thing is to be comfortable. You want to, for the most part, if you're in a chair, you want to be sitting with your feet on the floor and not too, like, tied up in a knot. Oh, thank you so much. And there are a couple different ways you can hold your hands. Either palms up, palms down, or they call it the hand positions mudras. You can have your hands just resting in your lap. Mostly, I think the most important thing is to not be, whatever you're doing, not be pitching your shoulders forward too far. That will make your back uncomfortable. And then you want to also be careful about too much, like leaning back. That can encourage sleepiness, I found. So reasonably upright, but I know, like, you guys, if your backs get tired, just shift if you need to and take a little break. I can move if you feel like you want to use the wall for support. Okay. Okay. You guys want to try to use the wall? Okay. Sometimes intense emotions might arise when you stop and be quiet. And we all have personal histories. And I just want to encourage everyone here that if stuff arises that's too uncomfortable for you, you don't have to continue to meditate. Open your eyes, take a break, tiptoe out of the room until we're done if it feels too intense or too uncomfortable, and then make sure you talk to me about that afterwards. When I first started to meditate, some of that kind of stuff happened for me, and so it's totally understandable. It's normal. It happens for some people. As soon as you get quiet, it's like all your stuff kind of can come up sometimes. So that's normal, but you don't want to torture yourself. That's not the goal here. You want to be kind to yourself if at all possible. Okay? So this is one way of meditating, and it's going to have several different techniques. You just follow along as best you can. And I've got a meditation bell timer that I use that's on my phone. And if anybody's interested, it's called Insight Timer, and there's like a free light version. Okay, but we're gonna set it up for 20 minutes. They say 23 minutes is like how long that your body actually needs to settle in. But I want to make sure, especially for first timers, we don't want to go too long. Most people find that with a guide, it's not too long. It's not too difficult or uncomfortable. So if you start to feel sleepy or too uncomfortable, you can open your eyes. If you need to shift physically, see if you can delay before you shift your body and just be really intentional and gentle and slow about repositioning yourself, because sometimes if we're fidgety and we start to fidget, it never stops. And so that's a way to help yourself be able to be more still. Okay, so the bell will strike once when we begin, and it'll strike 3 times at the end. I try to give as much warning as I can to transition you back to being more alert at the end, so you'll know that it's coming. Okay. And a bell is nice because it's another, it's like the pair of gloves, those thing. Our body can get really used to the bell rings, and the body knows what to do.
Can I actually use that as
I was just going to ask the
space?
same.
Yeah. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Sorry.
So move this out of the way.
If there's not any room.
Let's see. Well, if
I was gonna say.
Okay, that's all.
there you go.
Are you
One more.
Oh, yeah.
I brought my yoga blankets and tissues and it's on the floor.
Does anybody need a blanket? So you're gonna brave it?
What?
You're gonna brave it?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. All right. So, are you sure you're okay back there? Okay. So I can move to the center of the room if somebody wants this chair or wants. Okay. So, okay. So, start to settle in and just begin to get a sense of your spot on the earth. The place where you're occupying space right now, and it's only you, and you've got your spot on the solid earth, feeling your feet on the ground, or feeling whatever's beneath you, the chair or the floor, pillow, and just feeling the solidness of it. And just reminding everyone that you don't have to meditate with eyes closed if you don't want to. You can just use an object of focus if you want. And as you settle into your spot and get a sense of your spot and sort of allow yourself to drop in and be really here, really present, to do the thing you came here to do this evening, turn your attention to begin to notice the top of your head with no other purpose except to notice. You're going to just take note of any sensations you might find there at the top of your head, whether there might be tingling or tightness, or perhaps nothing at all that you notice. But whatever you find there, you're just allowing it to be there as you notice. And then gently allow your attention to drift down and notice the front of your face. Noticing especially those areas around the eyes or the mouth where we carry tension. And see if you can relax those areas around the eyes or the mouth. Take note of where your tongue is in your mouth. Can you allow it to drop if it's stuck to the roof of your mouth? And just let it rest comfortably. Or notice whether your jaw is clenched. Can you just slightly separate your teeth and let them rest separated? Some people find it easier to meditate with their lips slightly parted. And then start to let your attention move around to the sides of your head, noticing your ears, temples, noticing any tension that might be there. And perhaps imagining allowing your ears to drop slightly as a way of releasing any tension that's there. And then just noticing how that feels. And allowing any remaining sensations to be there on the sides of your head as you move your attention around to the back of your head. Noticing the back of your head, the back of your neck, areas that are not easy to release the tension from if there's tension there. You're just noticing what is the experience of the back of your head, the back of your neck right now. If there's anything really uncomfortable, you can ask if it's willing to relax and open to receive any relaxation that occurs. And then allow any remaining sensations there in the back of your head or neck to be there, right where they are. As you move your attention slowly down to notice your shoulders and arms. And see if you can further drop your shoulders, release them. And scan down your arms from your shoulders slowly to your elbows, down your forearms to your hands, all the way to your fingertips. And all you're doing is noticing. Whatever you experience in your arms this evening is fine, exactly as it is. You're just noticing what the experience is. You might notice tightness or tiredness or tingling or nothing at all. But you're just noticing. And now allow any remaining sensations that are there in your arms to be there as you shift your attention to the core of your body and begin to notice from your throat down to your chest and down to your belly. Just noticing whatever you find there. Perhaps noticing the tension that's there in the front of the body. We tend to carry a sort of armor across our chests and our belly. And see if you could allow those places to relax. Imagine an opening in the heart area and allow your belly to soften. And see if you could allow your throat to soften as well. And you're just hanging out there, noticing what the sensations are there in the front of your body as you notice, without trying to change it or fix anything. And you might even notice, just while you're paying attention, that things kind of soften on their own. Just through the magical act of paying attention. And finally, allow your attention begin to drift down toward your hips and start to notice the feeling of the chair beneath you and the feeling of your legs as you scan down from your hips, noticing the tops and bottoms of your thighs, front and back, to your knees, noticing what the knees are like, noticing your legs from your knees down to your ankles as you scan your shins and calves. Noticing your feet from your heels out to your toes. Just taking note of whatever you find there in your legs this evening, whether it's restlessness or comfort or tingling or tiredness or achiness. And just acknowledging what your experience is, how you find your legs this evening, and being with that for a little while. And gently begin to turn your attention inward to notice your breath. Just noticing the fact that you're breathing. Not trying to change the breath in any way, but just noticing that there is breathing in and breathing out. And you might take note of where your breath features most prominently. Maybe it's at the nose, where the cold air is drawn in. And then maybe it's at the throat, the sensation of the air moving down. Or maybe it's something related to the filling of your chest or your belly with air, the rising and falling, or the sound of your breath. See if you can notice what your attention naturally wants to notice about your breath. You might notice that there's a pause at the end of the out-breath before you begin to draw the next breath. And there's even a pause at the end of the in-breath, although almost imperceptible in its smallness, but it's there. And don't be worried too much if thought starts to draw you away. You can notice that thought is happening, that it's talking to you, but you don't have to get involved in the conversation it's trying to have with you. You can just notice that it's there and come back, noticing your breath. And now, as you sit with your breath, and you've noticed that there's a place your attention naturally gravitates to around your breath, you're going to gently allow other things into the space of your awareness along with your breath, and let your attention notice anything else it wants to about what's happening in the present moment. So thought may be happening, so that's in the present. But what it's thinking about is not in the present. So the fact of thought is present. You might hear sounds in the room. The sound of the AC or the ticking clock. You might notice the feeling of your clothes on your body, or the position you're sitting in, or the things that are pressing against your body as you sit. You might notice the temperature in the room. Anything at all that you sense that's happening in the present moment, you can allow your attention to go there and just notice. Noticing the experience of that, not so much commenting on it or having to analyze it. Noticing what is an experience of those things without words. Is it possible to have an experience of my body or of the ticking clock without attaching any words to it? A true perception without any judgment. And if you like, you can begin to introduce this question into your meditation space to help stay in the present in this non-judgmental, playful way. You could ask, what happens if I allow everything to be as it is in this moment? There's not an answer to that question. The answer is found in your experience after you ask the question. What happens if I let go of even the meditator? You can ask yourself, what's the experience of that? Not trying to do anything, just allowing everything to be exactly as it is in this moment. No struggle, no striving. Controller, the one who's always trying to get it right, doesn't need to do anything right now. And sometimes it can be a little disorienting to allow letting go this way. Feel free to open your eyes if you feel disoriented, to ground yourself. And if you get carried away by thought, you can always reintroduce the question, what happens if I allow everything to be as it is in this moment? What's that like? Or you can just check in. Am I really allowing everything to be as it is? Am I truly and deeply allowing everything to be exactly as it is in this moment? There's nothing that needs to be controlled in this moment. You've set aside this space and this time just for this. And you're just noticing. This is a different way of relating to your experience. Instead of relating through mind, you're going to relate directly witnessing your experience. What is the sensation? What is the true experience of allowing everything to be as it is in this moment? What's that like? And whatever it is, whatever it's like today, right now, is fine exactly as it is. And just take one more minute now to savor the space, silence, the peace, noticing that you didn't have to do anything to get to this place. Slowly starting to send some energy into your arms and legs, and some movement to your fingers and toes. Giving yourself as much time as you need to transition, being more alert. Always want to be kind, to be gentle to ourselves, allow time for transition. So glad you could all come this evening. Namaste.
Namaste.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. You're welcome. Sorry about, I told you I would give you warning before the bell. I tried to pause it and I fudged it. Sorry about that. So, you okay just turning on one light here? So, any comments or questions after Having the rubber hit the road. How did that go?
Really good.
Yeah.
Awesome. If you have any questions or if there was anything about your meditation experience that was like annoying or you feel like it was not right or not okay or you want to tweak it somehow, feel free to give me a call. My card's on this table. If you want to borrow a book, I just need a Post-it with your vital information so I can hunt you down. Okay. Wonderful to have you all this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Where's your card at?
Right
I
here.
got you.
There's another meditation book that some people like a lot with a CD in it called Real Happiness by Sharon Salzberg. It's kind of like a 30-day start a meditation habit kind of book. And she's a really experienced, she's one of the co-founders of the Insight Meditation Center in Massachusetts. 38 years or so, I think, of meditation instruction. You can go to a couple of different websites and get free guided meditations, either stream them or download them. Christopher Germer is one person who has them.
Can you repeat it?
Christopher Germer, Germer. And he wrote a book that I love, and I recommend it to almost every single client of mine as a therapist, called The Mindful Path to Self-Compassion. And it's all about changing the way you relate to your experience, that internal self-talk, so that you can be kinder to yourself. And there's another one, there's a woman that wrote a book called Radical Acceptance. I don't have it up here. Her name is escaping me right now. Tara Brach. She has tons and tons. I think she records every retreat, every single meditation that she does, and on her website, all that stuff is there for streaming. So you can find chanting meditations and every kind of meditation you could possibly want is on there.
What's the name?
Tara Brach. And I can pass this around if you want to take a peek. This meditation timer actually has, let's see, there's a link where you can go and it will give you a whole list of all the different websites. You can just, like, with one touch, go to a website that has guided meditations. Let's see. Well, there's a timer. You can play with it if you want to check it out. I can't remember how to get to that since the last upgrade.
So how did you get to where it showed you all the different?
I'm trying to figure out how to get there. It looks like they want me to log in. I think I have to log in to get there.
Let me see the.
Free.
Okay.
And you can, there's all different kinds of bells, and you can set the length of time however you want it.
Okay.
What was the name of the very first book you mentioned?
The Mindful Path to Self-Compassion, or the Real Happiness? The meditation? Yeah. It's called Real Happiness. It's a little red book.
When they had open there.
That book is Ivy Shanti's True Meditation.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
felt good to put my back in.
Would it be good if I like
Where would
moved
you
the
like-
chair up to the hall? I just
Oh,
didn't
this.
know where you got it.
That one goes in my office,
Okay.
right across the hall there. That'd be
Okay.
fantastic. Thank you.
Where would you like?
Um,
Thanks for having us.
You guys don't have to do that. I
Oh,
can
no,
pick
I'd
up
be
the.
happy
Yeah.
to.
So this one stays here, those stay here. And that orange one you can toss in my office, that's just directly across the hall. This
Okay.
one stays here.
Okay.
Thank you. And these two go in that office across the hall. That
That one
one's
goes in.
how was it with no back support?
It was great.
Okay.
I felt a lot of strain at first, but after
Yeah.
about 15 minutes or so, it just kind of went away.
Okay.
I had my head kind of hurt a little bit at first.
Yeah,
but it all
like
just
right here was like.
Yeah?
seemed like I couldn't
And then
feel
it went
anything
away,
anymore.
and then it came back. But I don't know.
My
It
back
wasn't
feels
painful.
way better though. Like
Yeah.
it feels
I
like much better than it has been in a long time.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
It's good. Really relaxed.
Good. Have you meditated before?
I have, but
It's never been like that was like the best.
That was a lot.
I like having someone talk it
Yeah,
through rather
yeah,
than
like it was easier to get like into the feel of it.
Like imagining.
Yeah.
Tap your head
Wait,
out.
talking or?
Katie
Yeah,
did it
well,
that
we
one
did
time.
it
I
at the
thought
park.
we did.
Yeah.
Oh, I wasn't
Kind of
there.
dropped in.
You really missed out.
So
I
you
know,
can't
I
really
probably
do
did.
something
Hands
else
was a
while.
Well,
you're
we
sitting
did it one
Yeah,
time where she like put on like
You can use
music,
that
just
just
like
to go to
waves
sleep.
and stuff.
Yeah,
and it
that's
was really
a
good.
good
And
idea.
then I kind of
Definitely
like
got me,
lost
like,
myself, and then
Ready to.
I kind
That's
of
why I'm
transferred
trying
that.
to. Maybe meditation would be better for
Yes, I like
me.
listening to music.
I like
Uh-huh.
the
It's actually
sound
better
of
than
it.
couch
It's
stuff.
not
Yeah.
soft, like,
Not
To
before bed,
relax.
just like at night, yeah, to
Yeah.
relax.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna try and do it for like all times of the day. Once I like
Yeah.
better at
If
it.
it works before bed, then do it before
Yeah.
bed. Yeah. Cool.
Thank you.
You're
Yeah,
welcome.
thanks so
This is great
much.
to have
Yes,
all
It's
of
like a
you.
first like experience
Yeah.
with somebody
Good.
talking through
Yeah.
it all. I
Good.
think it helps it a lot better, at least for me.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
I have a
It was
question.
definitely easier to get like into the feel of like trying to like be like aware but not like you were saying, like not like thinking like,
aware.
oh, that's annoying or something. Like I was just
Right.
like dealing with it there, and it was just like easy to like, I don't know, it's just really comfortable.
Yeah.
And it's
yeah.
just calming. And I needed
Awesome.
that.
It's
Thank
always
you.
great when people have a first experience like that, because then you're more.
Yeah.
Yes, so much.
That's
yeah.
the goal.
Yeah.
So I can take
Oh,
that from
sure.
you. Thank you.
Sorry, I was like listening.
Thank you. All right.
Oh,
Alright.
oh, I actually have a question.
Okay.
Is there like any type of like incense that like you could like have while you're trying to like that's
You're
like
welcome.
calming, I guess you could say, to get you more into the feel of
People use whatever. So I like these candles come from the Big Dipper Waxworks. It's called Meditation, but some people use I think it's called plancha. There's whatever works for you. Really, it's just
it's kind
about
of like a trial and error.
yeah. It's
Okay.
if it doesn't smell good to you, no matter what I say about it, it's gonna suck.
Suck, yeah. Make
So-
sure you like it.
Yeah, just use what you like and make a little space that is just your special place to do that.
Okay.
Mm.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
Thanks for
If I have
putting up
any
with the crowded
questions,
conditions.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
absolutely.
Definitely be back.
Yeah, well,
Yes,
Awesome.
definitely.
We'll have to find a bigger space.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you.
me.
Thank you for coming.
Where can I find these?
This, there's a
I
full
haven't
stack of them up there. You can
Thank you.
take that one with you.
Oh, well, thank you. Where can I like subscribe to them or anything? Like, where can I find regular?
I don't know if there is a way to get a subscription. I know that you can always just pop in here. The Worthington Farmers Market carries those. You're free to come in here and grab one anytime you want. I think there's 2 free publications out there.
I can get it to your house. Are they like monthly? Do you know? Or-
I think they're monthly. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. What was your name?
Yes.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
You're welcome. You too.
She has questions.
I have a question
Awesome.
for you.
Okay.
So, the reason we came, I don't have any problems really relaxing. I actually many times actually fall asleep.
Okay.
But one of the problems that I have I have a high-stress job with lots of other community projects, and I have this tendency to, I think I have a very utilitarian mind in terms of being very effective. So as you were going through this, I saw all these young people, which I was so blown away to see so many young people. And I was like, wow, that means that Cynthia could actually come and work with my own students. And so my mind was like, yeah, that could be really good for my staff too, and so on and so forth. And I think that is really my only issue. I can't, I wake up in the morning composing letters in my head. This is how I know that I'm awake. And so I'm not sure why. So Chip decided, well, I just had a 4-day hospitalization with atrial fibrillation caused really just by stress, not really by nothing is wrong. Not that my health is fine, things like this. They put me on medication, and Chip's suggestions like, maybe you need to learn how to meditate. I think I need to meditate at night to just clear my head from everything and then actually go to sleep. And so, because I like to do yoga in the morning, and I do like 15 minutes, not every day, but I do about 15-minute yoga in the morning, and that kind of puts a spring in my step. I really actually enjoy it.
And what's your mind doing while you're doing yoga?
Nothing. It's
awesome.
like but it's the same guy. I like Rodney Yee, and it's the same routine, and it's the same 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And I probably could do it without it, but I do put the DVD in, and I do it. No, I don't think about really anything else.
Awesome.
I can totally disconnect, and pretty soon I'm going like, wow, it's 6 o'clock. He gets out of the shower, and I was like, I need to get ready for work. And so it's at night where I
can't shut down.
No, I have like hundreds of emails a day. I have so many. I need to compartmentalize my time because this is work and this is this community project. This is, and I promise this things to this person and so on and so forth. And I'm very productive, but actually ending up in the hospital showed me that my body is going like, ooh, that's like that's just beyond what a normal person should do. And I really have, so I'm trying to figure out what could I do to just put a stop to it. And that is really, I don't actually know what to do.
It sounds to me like there aren't really any limits around work right now. It sounds to me like it's taking up space in your head every waking moment.
It's true. It is true.
She's also spread herself pretty thin, so she's getting rid of some responsibilities that occupy those spaces too. So once those drop off, because initially when you started and you were doing, she's the president of the university, so she has lots of, it's nursing, so she's very focused on the nursing thing. And gradually more things came in and took a little bit more of her time. And I've watched her go from, in the beginning, there's that learning curve, and then she got it, and more often than not, she could go home from work and really be pretty done with it. It never ends now. It goes until for her, anywhere between 10 and 1 o'clock in the morning, and then she goes, gets a shower, and then she lays in bed for 20 minutes to a half hour trying to calm down, and then she goes to sleep and gets up at 5:30. So. And it's a horrible routine that she's gotten herself into that led her to this. And I have been for quite a while telling her at least shut it off at 9:30 and then do other stuff till 11 because she goes to bed with her brain hot on the topic. You need to shift that out. And maybe by...
And the thing is, I enjoy it. I don't resent it, but I've noticed in the last few weeks that Chip said, well, looks like you're getting your shoulder fused.
She's
which tells me, which I usually don't have temper, but it's just like, ooh, I'm getting shoulder fused, which means I'm losing my patience with some things, so maybe it's just too much. So I've decided to give up some things, and I'm actually on medical leave for, and not allowed to do any travel, anything, but no emails, but that doesn't mean that I shut my hand.
Right.
But I think maybe the clue was I bought the book and reread the book 80-20.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure you're familiar with that. And in it, it has an exercise that says, what is it that you like to do the most, and do more of that, and what is it that you like to do the least? And well, hey, I really had the whole time knowing what I like to do and what I don't even like to do, because it just seems like I take on everything and I just do it, and I don't even have negative feelings towards things that have just become mundane or.
Well, you don't have to have negative feelings towards something in order for it to. I think it's more likely for this to happen when you've got positive feelings, because it's like it kept expanding, and now your health is a signal that the balance is not there.
No, it's not.
And
The lines have totally blurred. And where I'm very cognizant of my employees, and I don't send emails to them on the weekend because I don't want them to work on the weekend, but I do.
Right.
And so I'm really, seriously, I'm really having a hard time I'm not really sure where it came from. Like, I feel like if I'm not productive, it wasn't a really good day. So I feel like I have to be productive all the time, which is, I never kind of.
So just want you to know that on the mental health side of things, the needing to be productive all the time can be tied to a belief. It can be tied to childhood stuff.
I totally believe that.
And so that's a different kind of work, which can also be very helpful and very effective. But then the spirituality side, like the meditation and stuff, and really examining how you're spending your time and how much time he's getting of yours.
Well, the nice thing is that if we could categorize, I'm an A and he's a B. He lives in La La Land and I live in a very, very practical kind of a world. So,
and I'm sure he still misses you sometimes.
Yeah, but he's the one that gets me off the tree.
How he gets you out of the tree?
Yes,
well, I have been over, and I mean, this